So I found this article called 10 Questions to Ask a Writer. So I'm going to ask myself these questions just so you guys get to know me a little bit better. Let me see. And I'm going to show my face so you know what I look like. So the first question is, what made you want to be a writer? So I didn't always want to write. I actually remember the first time my grandparents gave me a journal, and I was fairly young. I was like maybe 5, 6, 7. And even just writing simple sentences was difficult. I was not very good at like my printing. My handwriting was not the neatest. And now I know that might be due to my ADHD and autism, because sometimes the fine motor skills are not so easy. So the physical act of writing was not always my favorite. And I hated the act of journaling. It just seemed so time consuming, and I very much am like a live in the present kind of person. However, I've always been a storyteller. So that kind of changed from like 3rd to 5th grade. I was really into poetry and performing, even though I do have like performance anxiety when it comes to things like that. So if you see me at the reading at Libromobile on the 28th from 6 to 7, make sure to clap extra loud for me, because doing things like that is very hard. For me especially, it doesn't come easily to me. Anyways, that's on Friday the 28th at Libromobile, if you know where that is in Santa Ana. Where was I going with this? So storytelling to me is very cathartic, because I feel like even in Latino culture, if you're like venting or gossiping, like that is a form of storytelling, even though you're not making things up. But I always had like an active imagination. Like when I was younger, I pretended I had a twin, even though I was an only child and had no siblings, which I think is kind of amusing, because I don't even know how I thought I could come up with that and like pull it off, which I don't think I did. I'm pretty sure people knew right away I was lying, but I think that creativity and that imagination was always in me, because I always thought reality was kind of boring or dull, and if I could make something up more interesting than that, then that was worth it. Which I guess goes into the second question, when did you know you wanted to be a writer? Although that's a more complicated question, because I kind of always liked writing after I got to that point in my academic career, showing that I did actually enjoy it. I liked writing essays, which I still do every now and then. But I felt it was too impractical. So I went into teaching. Well, first I went into psychology first, because I thought I wanted to be a therapist. And then I realized that I hold too many emotions of other people to effectively give advice and not be overwhelmed. So I became a teacher, and I was equally overstimulated and overwhelmed by that job, although I loved it and it was very fulfilling, very satisfying, but it's also very draining. They don't pay teachers enough, and they don't appreciate us enough either for all that they put us through. And there's not enough support in the classroom, especially for special education, which I came out of as a teacher. So once I hit rock bottom there, I knew I couldn't hide from my destiny, from my calling. I had to be a writer. So that's what I needed to do, because I couldn't do anything else. So might as well do something you're good at. How did I learn to write? I first learned to write in Spanish. I went to a dual immersion school, and so I learned the Spanish phonics first. That's how I learned how to read, and then writing soon followed that. And then same with English. After like 2nd or 3rd grade, I'd say I learned how to write. But I would still say I'm still learning how to write. As I'm writing these books, I think my writing will only improve and get better. I went to Liberty University online, which I know may be controversial, but they have an excellent writing program, and that's where I learned how to write. I still struggle with the technical writing and the grammar and mechanics, but I think that might be partially because English is technically not my first language, Spanish is, and so I learned the rules and mechanics of Spanish, then forgot them completely because I had to switch over to English, but then I missed the building blocks of English because I first learned them in Spanish, so it's very complicated. But anyways, short answer is I'm still learning to write. What books or magazines do you read regularly? Which ones would you recommend to aspiring writers? I would say anything as far as like memoirs, the Stephen King memoir, A Guide to Writing, or what is it called? Let me check. I should know this by heart. On Writing, a Memoir of the Craft. Yes, that is what it is called. I would recommend that book. Any of the books I learned in my MFA program, which I might post a video of, just listing all the books that I had to read during that time period, because I think that did help me a lot with my writing process. It taught me how to write memoirs, like nonfiction, poetry, etc. As far as books that I read regularly, I read a lot of romance novels, which is kind of ironic because I write thrillers and mysteries and like young adult. So not a lot of romance going on, even though there are some elements in there. But just for fun, I read a lot of romance. I also read a lot of young adult because I do find that it helps me see what works for other people, especially the successful ones. Hunger Games would be a good one, that series, although I only read the first book, but I want to continue reading the rest of it because I feel like she's a really good writer. Suzanne Collins, I believe. Who are your favorite authors? I would say Emily Dickinson, Sylvia Plath, Jane Austen, Emily Bronte, Charlotte Bronte, Edgar Allan Poe, and Ali Hazelwood, romance. So those are a few of my favorite authors that I've read and have continued to read. Of course, the mother of science fiction. Oh, what is her name? Mary Shelley, thank you. The one who wrote Frankenstein, the one, the only. Where do I get my ideas from? They kind of happen randomly, sometimes when I'm walking, when I'm taking a shower, when I'm meditating, when I'm talking to someone. An idea will just pop up, like a conversation between two characters or like a scene. I remember the first scene of Livin' La Vida Loba, no spoilers, happened when I was in a writing club with my friends, and someone mentioned a scene and I could see it clearly in my head, and then based on that scene I wrote the whole book around that scene. So that's where I get my ideas from. It could be from anywhere. What is my favorite part of writing? I love writing dialogue. I love being able to say things that are out of character for me, but that are in character for someone else. And my favorite part of being a writer is being able to cause different emotions in people as they're reading, but also making them laugh, because I love to make people laugh just in general, but especially in writing. And my least favorite part of writing, I'd have to say marketing. I hate having to market myself. I thought I hated editing, but marketing is like the 9th level of hell for me, because I'm not used to being in front of a camera or being on display or being seen. And I think a lot of writers can resonate with that, but I am trying to, ingratiate myself with my audience, to create an audience, to create a community that would love my book, Living La Vida Loba. So it is worth it. But that, I would say, that is my least favorite part. And my least favorite part of being a writer is not being as productive as I want to be. I would say I need to nail myself down to a writing schedule. I used to be really good about that when I was in grad school, but I'd say it's much harder when I don't have a hard and loose deadline. So just being a responsible human being and writer, I think, is my least favorite part. Not that I don't enjoy writing, but it's just my standards are here, but my productivity is here. So I think part of it might be because I'm a perfectionist and I have really high standards, and so therefore it makes it harder to write. But those are the 10 questions. If you have any other questions for me, leave them in the comments below. So see you next time. Bye.